All right. I was asked to make a video about the rhetorical devices that we went through in class. I was going to reinvent the wheel, and I decided let's just get this information out as quickly as possible. So here's what we're doing. I have the sheet pulled up that we did in class. If you did not do it in class, this is also in Google Classroom. Um, at this point, you don't have to do it, but if you need help with this information, I would encourage you to write along in this document as you're listening to this video. Yeah, so that's that. We're going to start at the beginning with illusion. Illusion, you may remember, is a brief reference to a person, place, or thing. It's something that everybody knows about. So in class, I used the example of Homer Simpson. So I said, for instance, if I told you guys that my dad was a real Homer Simpson, what would you know about my dad without me having to say anything else? You'd probably think automatically that my dad was maybe he liked donuts, maybe he likes to sit in front of the TV, maybe he says dope. Like those are the things we just know about Homer Simpson. I don't have to explain to you all those things. It just pops in your mind. So if I say my dad's a real Homer Simpson, you would just kind of laugh or giggle, or you would know, you'd have a picture in your head of what my dad was like. That's how you convey information in a short period of time with just one name. So it's pretty cool. Another way we could do it, it says literary or political significance. Let's say that we're trying to make a literary reference. And let's say we said, man, I went to visit my cousin's school and it was like Hogwarts. You would automatically know that the school was like grand and huge and pretty amazing, right? Like a castle, because Hogwarts is from Harry Potter. If you don't know Harry Potter, that's okay, but I highly encourage you read it. Like honestly, stop the video and go pick it up. In all seriousness, it's so fun. You should read it. But Hogwarts is this amazing school. So without me having to describe the school, I'd simply say my cousin's school is like Hogwarts, and people that know Harry Potter would know what that's like. And then if you wanted to think of something historical or cultural, if you said something like, I went to this party and it was lit up like the 4th of July, what would come to your head? Those things that come to your head, that's what everybody thinks of when they think of the 4th of July. So once again, you're able to convey a lot of information with just one piece or one significant event or person. That is illusion. So in your own words, you're going to write right here. And again, you don't have to do this, but in order to learn something, it's a good idea to rewrite it in your own words. That way, you're putting it in your brain the way you remember it. It's more likely that you're going to access that information later. So, telling Okay, telling a lot about someone without having to give so many details. Is that the exact definition? No, not really, but it's close enough. It's something that I'm going to remember, telling a lot about someone without having to give so many details. The only thing I'd add to this is someone or something. That's more thorough. But when in the future, when I say write it in your own words, this is what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to be something that you're going to remember. So if somebody says, what's illusion? You'll be able to say, I think it's like saying a lot about someone or something without having to give too much information. And you'll remember. It's a little bit easier. Example from the video. In this case, we'll just like do Homer Simpson or Hogwarts because I'm talking to you, right? All right. And then image to represent the term. As I said in class, when you combine words with imagery, you are much more likely to remember it. Your brain makes little connections every time you learn something. So think of the connections kind of forming a cluster, kind of like the middle of a baseball or something like that. Like it forms all these, or like a rubber band ball. Think of it like that. So when you learn something, you're forming a little rubber band ball. The more you learn about that topic, your rubber band ball gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So when you add an image to it, it helps you access that rubber band ball and it adds depth to your rubber band ball. That is a really good way of thinking about it. So I'm going to let's say I'll grab Homer Simpson, okay? Because that's pretty easy. And again, these notes are for you so that you will be able to recollect. So when I say illusion, you might simply remember Homer Simpson in your head, and then that will help you remember what illusion means, which is, I think, pretty cool. Okay, I think I made this box bigger than it needs to be, but whatever, I'm not going to freak out about it. Well, I might freak out a little bit. Sometimes that stuff bothers me. You get it. Anecdote. Anecdote is a short, entertaining account of something happening. It's a short, personal story. An anecdote is a short, personal story. Um, it's when you tell somebody something about yourself so that they can relate to you. It forms a connection from that person and to you. So in the RFK speech that we listened to in class, Robert F. Kennedy, he told the story of his brother getting murdered. So him telling that story is a personal story so the audience understands that he's a real person and he feels a connection to the audience, therefore the audience feels a connection to him. That is a rhetorical device that is used in many different ways. If you're listening to a speaker, oftentimes they'll start out their speech with a personal story. In fact, when we met our new principal, or no, Dr. Weichman, he's the superintendent of Sanger in 2024. The first time he met us, he told us this story about him going to school as a child and how he struggled. So when he told us that story, we got an image of Dr. Weichman as a child and we could relate because he said he struggled in school and some of our students struggle. So we could relate to that and we'll remember that. So short personal story. So I'll put here, it is a short personal story. I'll put Dr. Weichman from Sanger Unified. Another one I'm going to give you so you have another thing is like in class I talked about dogs and cats. So I talked about like let's say if I'm talking about how dogs are the best pet that one could ever have, I might say something like, you know, when I was about 10 years old, I went to my friend's house and she had a new puppy and the puppy played with us all day and I fell and skinned my knee and the puppy came up and licked my face and it made me feel comforted. Dogs are the best. So I'm telling you this short story to connect you to me before I argue about how dogs are amazing, right? So when you think about dogs, you're going to think of that story to go along with whatever I was trying to convince you to do. I'm going to put puppy and skinned knee. It's a short personal story. I'm going to expand on my definition a bit to make people feel connected to the argument. Let's do puppy. I think that will be a good one, right? Ah, that one's cute. Oh no, what is happening? No, not now. Puppy! For those of you that are absent who are asking yourself if you have to do all this, I encourage you to because I think it's going to help you remember, but you do not have to. Okay, next one, counter argument, counterclaim. This is a big one. This is very different than what you've done before. When you wrote your informational essay, it had 3 body paragraphs. If you write an argumentative essay, it has body paragraphs. One of them has to be the counter argument. It's a technique where the speaker or the writer, they think of the objections that people would have to their argument, and then they come up with the counter claim. So, for example, if you said, you know, I really want to go to ice cream after dinner, but I know my friend and I know he's going to be like, so unhealthy. I don't want to eat ice cream. It has so many calories. I'm really trying to watch what I eat. Okay. So then I might say, okay, I know that he's going to say that. So before I even talk to my friend, I'm going to think about how I can argue his argument. So again, I want ice cream. I know my friend's going to say it's unhealthy. All right. So I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to say, I want ice cream, but I know it's kind of unhealthy. So what we can do is we can walk to and from the ice cream parlor after dinner. It will settle our stomachs and burn off the calories that we're going to consume with the ice cream. Also, the ice cream parlor offers non-dairy options that are so much more healthy for you than regular ice cream. So right away, we've countered his argument, right? Now, when I present it to my friend, I'm going to say that argument. We can walk to and from, and also the ice cream parlor I'm taking you to has non-dairy options that are healthier. And then my friend's going to be like, oh my gosh, you're totally right. Not only do we get ice cream, but I can actually make a healthy choice while I'm there. Yeah, let's go eat ice cream. So that is giving a counter argument. So I'm going to put in here, you're anticipating, or no, let's put in different words. You think about what someone will say to your argument, and you come up with an argument against that. I hope that makes sense to you. I want you to put it in a way that makes sense to you, right? In my brain, what I just wrote makes sense. Um, what you may write might be different because your language might be different. So I wrote, you think about what someone will say to your argument and you come up with an argument against that. Okay. And then I'm going to put example, I'm going to put ice cream is unhealthy. So that's going to help me remember what we talked about. And let's do ice cream. I pasted a picture of ice cream there so that in my head I'll remember. Everybody wants ice cream, but my friend thinks it's unhealthy in that whole argument. Now, I didn't leave a spot for rebuttal here because I'm human and I made a mistake. So I'm just going to insert it here. See if that works. Kind of. All right, so that was what happened? Counterclaim, counter argument. I'm going to do rebuttal. What's happening? We're going to make this work. Rebuttal is refuting the counterclaim. So we kind of did it all up here, but I want you to understand the difference. So counterclaim, counterargument is the argument against yours, right? So like you think about what someone will say to your argument and you come up with an argument against that. So for instance, with the ice cream, you'd say, I think the other person's going to say the ice cream's unhealthy. So the counterclaim would be that the ice cream is unhealthy. So I'm going to kind of fix this a little bit. And I'll put this down here. Whoops. I kind of put it all in one. Hopefully you guys can catch up with that. All right. So counterclaim is the technique where the writer or speaker anticipates the objections the audience will have. And then rebuttal is when you're like, you have those objections about ice cream, but I'm here to tell you that not only is ice cream, can ice cream be healthy sometimes, you can also burn off calories when you walk to and from. So that's the rebuttal against the counterclaim, if that makes sense. All right, so you think about, let's see, rebuttal is refuting the counterclaim. Refuting means against, right? So definition, my own words, is like you're arguing. I have Grammarly, it's pretty cool. Arguing against the counterclaim. Now, the thing about rebuttal is that you're always going to want evidence with evidence. You want to support your rebuttal because your person that has the counterclaim, they're trying to disprove you. So they're going to say ice cream's unhealthy. Bam, that's it. Now you have to come back and support it with evidence. So whether you say, I'm going to go to the place with the non-dairy ice cream, and then you're going to have the information about that. Like you need to back it up, right? So I'm going to put ice cream, or let's put non-dairy. So in here, I'll walk to ice cream, right? I don't know if I can get an image. Let's see. Google's pretty amazing. So, oh, look at that's cute. Oh, that's so adorable. We talked about friends. So let's do, oh, that's cute. I am going off track a little bit, but I'll make my way back. So I found a picture of a girl that looks like she's in like jogging pants or something. I don't know if that works. She's walking with her ice cream. So in my head, I would be like, oh, she's kind of exercising a little bit. So that's going to make me remember. So that's your rebuttal. All right, so now we're getting into the hardcore nitty gritty ethos, pathos, and logos. You've probably heard this in class. We'll start with ethos, which is appeal to authority or appeal to using an expert. So when you're using ethos, the speaker is either an expert or the speaker has an expert to stand in for that argument. It also can talk about the speaker's trustworthiness or their expert's trustworthiness or their moral fiber. Okay. So, for example, you might have in the RFK speech, we can trust Robert F. Kennedy in certain ways. Then, when he talks about the poem, he reads the poem out loud. He has it memorized, right? So, when somebody has a poem memorized, we might think, wow, this is a pretty educated man. He's a really good speaker. He's very calm up there on the stage, and he has a poem memorized from his favorite poet. When you hear that somebody has a poem memorized and it's their favorite poet, so not only do they like poetry, but they have a favorite poet who's, an old ancient poet, what do we think about that person? We might think, okay, they're educated, they're very smart. We can trust this person because he's done his homework, right? That's appealing to authority. It could be morals or it could just be an expert opinion, but either way, we can trust a person like that, or at least that's the idea, right? Um, yeah. So in my own words, I'm going to say appeal to an expert opinion or someone we can trust. Good moral fiber. Okay, an example from the video, I'm going to put Robert F. Kennedy reading a poem. And let's see if we can get an image on that. Reading a poem. I like how they do the cartoon videos and stuff. For some reason in my head, that it's just always cute, right? So let's see. It's just kind of nice. Kind of nice. Okay. Yeah, so here's somebody reading a poem, kind of looking contemplative. That's going to make me remember the poem. So that is appeal using ethos, appeal to authority using ethos. Now let's go to pathos. Pathos is emotion. I sometimes think of the word passion, pathos, passion, using that alliteration there to help me remember. So in my head, I'm thinking passion. And when I think of passion, I think of emotions, right? Usually when you're passionate, that person could be deemed as emotional. Emotional is a good thing and a bad thing and an awesome thing and a scary thing. So there's a lot of different emotions, right? Which is they can all be passionate. So pathos, appeal to emotions. It's an argument where the speaker attempts to affect the listener's personal feelings. When the argument uses that, they want the audience to feel something which would drive them to do the thing they want them to do. For example, if there was an oil spill and they're advertising for Dawn soap, right? They can advertise for Dawn soap all they want using dishes, using people putting dishes in dishwashers, things like that. That's fine, that's well and good. But when they advertise showing a duck covered in oil, crude oil, and they say Dawn gets the grease off this duck and saves this duck's life, right? You are looking at this commercial and you're feeling an emotional attachment. You want this duck to survive. You can't believe this duck is covered in oil. You can't believe that Dawn actually does help the duck. So you associate in your mind Dawn with good things because Dawn has made you feel an emotional connection to this duck. And it's made you feel sad for this duck, but it's also made you feel happy that Dawn can get the oil off the duck. So they're doing a lot in that one commercial. They're definitely playing with your emotions to try to get you to buy their product. So it's something that you need to be aware of. And when it's speakers, but it's also advertisements 100%. So keep your eye out for that. And they can appeal to your sadness, happiness, anger. They can make you, there really is a lot of power in words. Once you realize it, you're going to realize that people are trying to manipulate your emotions all the time. That's not always a bad thing. It's just that you should be aware of it. And now that you're learning this, you probably will be. Try to think to yourself, why might a speaker want you to feel angry? When would a speaker want you to feel happy or excited? When would a speaker want you to laugh? I'm going to give you another example. A speaker might make you want to feel excited if perhaps they were giving a speech about opening up a new mall in town. So they had a speaker maybe, and they were trying to get the community behind them, right? And they're speaking to the community and saying like, in this town, we have never had this many stores under one roof. There are going to be so many jobs. There's going to be bands playing every Friday night. We're going to have food trucks lined out on the weekends. Can you imagine sitting around with your parents and your kids and your friends, and there's going to be music playing and smell of corn dogs and cotton candy from the food trucks? It's going to be amazing. And during those hot summer nights, you can come out and get a Kona Ice every Friday at our new mall. You get the audience like amped up from all those images to make them feel excited and happy, that makes them want to come to that mall. they want to be there, right? It's using your emotions. So the definition in our own words is going to be pathos manipulates emotions to get the listener, I'm going to put audience, to feel a certain way to agree with their argument. Okay. And I said argument. If I'm talking about somebody going to a mall, it's not necessarily an argument, but they still want you to go to the mall, right? So to agree um, with their ideas. So let's change that to ideas. Okay. Example from the video, I'm going to put new mall just so we can remember. Oh, we could put oil ducts. Let's do that. Oh, that will definitely make me remember. Okay. Watch this is going to come up real fast. Dawn ducks. Oh my God, you guys, look at that. Isn't that crazy? So if we do this, I'm sure we'll remember. Copy image. Google's amazing. I don't mean to keep repeating myself. All right. Logos, appealing to logic. Appeal to logic is where a speaker uses facts and figures and numbers and valid evidence to support their claim. I'm going to erase this. I don't know why that's there because I probably forgot to take it off. So, logic, facts, numbers. This is where somebody's going to show you their spreadsheets and their graphs, right? So let's talk about that mall, right? So that same speaker is trying to get people to go to the mall, and he's speaking to the town person or the whatever. Let's say he's speaking to the mayor, and the mayor, she's sitting there and she's like, I don't know if this is a good idea, so I'm going to listen to this guy, but I'm not sure if this mall is a good idea in our backyard. So this guy is going to get up there in front of our mayor and he's going to say, all right, mayor, listen. You haven't had a mall here ever. If we have a mall here, it is going to bring in 675 jobs from the 36 vendors that we have signed up to be in this mall. That's a lot of jobs right off the bat. The fact is that the closest shopping is 35 miles away in a city that has a Target. You do not have your own Target, right? Target increases the value of homes in your neighborhood by 16%. So those facts alone are enough to get you to come to this mall and to stand behind it and to get it to come to your city. So that argument uses logos. Could the speaker use a lot of other things? Absolutely. But those numbers alone, if you're talking to a mayor, she wants the town to improve. She wants it to be um, fiscally successful. She wants it to make a lot of money. She wants people to have jobs. So these numbers are a very good argument for this mayor. So if the mayor's your intended audience, logos is amazing. Also, sometimes facts and figures make a big difference. Like if you're talking about medicine or insurance or car insurance, or if you're talking about climate change, you need to know what is literally happening, right? These are the kind of places where numbers make a big difference. So I'm going to put logos. Logos is making an argument using hard facts and numbers. That's how I remember it. It's logic too, though, guys. Like if this speaker for this mall, let's talk about that, right? The speaker could say something along the lines of, listen, everybody in your town shops. Target, for example, takes the zip code of everybody that comes to their store. And in the past year, 78% of people living in your community have gone to Target at least 3 times. 78%. That's business that you're sending outside of your community. It just makes sense for you to have Target here inside our new mall so the 78% of people from your community can shop there multiple times, bringing in valuable tax dollars and jobs to your community. So there, I was using logic. Like it makes logical sense to put a store here that your people are already shopping at. So that's the same thing. That's logos. It's using logic or numbers to prove your point. Okay, so I'm talking about Target in your town. I was talking about a mall too. I kind of went off track a little bit, but you guys get the idea. In my old hometown, there was a Target in our mall, which is kind of crazy, but there was. All right, let's do Target because that's how I'm going to remember it. Images. All right. Target. Here we go. Okay. Alrighty. We're getting to the end of it. We're almost there. Repetition, 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 repetition. Repeating words or phrases for emphasis when you're speaking or writing. This is an amazingly effective tool that is kind of low key, right? It's not in your face like pathos or sometimes ethos. It's kind of something that you sometimes hear and don't recognize, which I think is really cool. When you're making an argument, you simply repeat words or phrases to get the audience to kind of remember because it kind of sticks in their head, right? So let's say if we're going to use an example from Robert F. Kennedy's speech. Um, he said, "What we need in the United States is not division. What we need in the United States is not hatred. What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but it is love and wisdom and compassion towards one another." When he says what we need several times, he is repeating it for emphasis so that not only are you thinking about the words what we need, but you're involved in the way he's speaking. You're kind of hanging on his every word because honestly, sometimes things in the English language, they just sound good, right? If you're repeating things, you're kind of involved in it. It almost has its own beat. Now, I'm not musical at all, but it has its own beat, right? Its own rhythm. You'll notice a lot of songs, they repeat, and especially when they have the chorus over and over again, right? But some songs will repeat words or phrases because it gets in your head. It's like a little worm. Kennedy was very good at doing this, and he did it multiple times. But that one stands out because he's like, what we need is love and wisdom and compassion. So by him repeating that, he's talking about needs, right? And so the words he uses are important as well. There's also another part where he says we will have difficult times. We've had difficult times in the past and we will have difficult times in the future. It's not the end of violence. It's not the end of lawlessness. It's not the end of disorder. So there he's repeating himself again for emphasis to try to encourage people to understand that nothing is going to be perfect. It's still going to be hard, but it's going to be hard and we're in this together, right? So again, it's emphasis to kind of say, hey, I see this, but I'm here with you. I'm here with you. I'm here with you. I'm here with you. So by him repeating it, it's kind of like, you know how when somebody comforts you, they're like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And it kind of, for some reason, it makes you feel better. That's what he was doing there. So repetition, again, is kind of like the unsung hero. I really do think it doesn't get, it's not the big flashy one, but in language, it's so effective. So it's kind of hard to make your own definition for repetition because it's literally repeating words and phrases. So whoops, repeating words and phrases for emphasis. Um, and sometimes it comforts people, but it just depends on what you want. So I'm just going to leave it as emphasis. I'm going to put the example is Robert F. Kennedy, what we need. Okay, and then we'll go Robert F. Kennedy. Not junior. We don't want the junior, different guy. Okay, and you probably figured this out by now that there is a junior, but we're absolutely talking about the original Robert F. Kennedy. I'm going to use this picture here because that's the picture you guys probably remember. Okay, so there we go. Repetition, repeating for emphasis. All right, rhetorical question. You guys know this one because I ask you it all the time. Ask a question of the audience to engage them without expecting a response. This can be completely effective when you're trying to, sometimes you use it for shock value, right? So for instance, if you're sitting in front of a group of mothers and you're trying to encourage them to put their kids in preschool before kindergarten, like all the schools are opening up all these preschools and stuff and blah, 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 blah. And some of the moms are like, I don't know. Some of the dads are like, I don't know. I'm just going to keep them at home for an extra year. And you are trying to pitch this idea of bring your kids to pre-K, right? So you're talking to this audience of parents and you're like, you're giving your stats, you're giving your logos, you're giving all these figures about how they're going to they're going to improve, they're going to do better in math and English. But then you look at them and you look at them in the eyes and you say, do you want your child to be left behind? How many parents do you think are going to be like, yeah, let's do that? No, when you say, do you want your child to be left behind? In their heart, they're like, no, of course not. And in a way, it kind of worms itself in there and they already are starting to think about it, right? Like, well, of course, I don't want my kid to be left behind. So then maybe later on they start thinking about it and they look at those facts and figures. And there's part of them that says, you know what, I don't want my kid to be left behind. So I'm going to do this. Now, it's so effective because it can kind of shock you and you're answering the question in your head, right? So that is exactly what that is. Asks a question of the audience. Asking a question of the audience without needing a response to elicit a an interior reaction. I'm going to say internal reaction. Our brain is doing a lot of things, you guys, that we don't always know about. So when speakers, really good speakers are doing well, we have stuff going on in our brain that we're not entirely sure is happening. We're processing all this information. So later on, we might not know the exact reason why we decided to agree with their point. That's why some of these little ones really make an impact. All right, I'm going to put an example, pre-K school speech to parents. And then what do we want to do here? Preschool. Sometimes when I'm talking to myself, you guys, I imagine that you're on the other end answering me. So just so you know, that's what's going on in my head. I kind of like this little kitty. He's cute. Okay. And then maybe I'll put like the question, do you want your child to be left behind? And then that way it will jog our memory even more, right? Call to action. All right, call to action is asking, encouraging, or literally demanding that your audience do something. If you are providing an argument, if you're speaking to people, you have to tell them what to do. Otherwise, you're wasting your opportunity. So imagine with that pre-K thing, right? Imagine that you're speaking to the audience. You're like mothers, fathers, caretakers. Um, we think your kids should go to pre-K because of this, this, and this. Do you want your child to be left behind? You make this amazing argument, and then at the end you go, "These are the facts and figures. Thank you very much for coming." This audience is going to look at you and go, oh, "Okay, are there cookies at the door? Do I leave?" All right. So without a call to action, they are literally left wondering what to do. I know that sounds funny, but how would they know what to do? Otherwise, they're just like, "Oh, that was a good speech, I guess." But I'll think about it, but it's not like I have to do anything. Nobody told me to do anything, and it seems small, but it is not. If you leave your audience without an exact thing that you're asking them to do, they don't know, and it could be very, very simple, right? It could be like sign up your kid for pre-K today. Or it could be very specific, like click the QR code, put your name on our mailing list on your way out. It could be call this 800 number. It could be like Obama gave that speech in class and he said, vote today. So that one was very simple. So it depends on your audience and what you want them to do, but you have to tell them to do something or else they're left not knowing. Even if you think it's obvious, like if you say close all zoos, at the end of the day, you have to tell them, call your congressman, write a letter, sign this petition. You have to tell them something to do. Otherwise, you're just like, yeah, this is a great idea, but whatever. It's unorganized. So your call to action is incredibly important. So the definition in your own words is telling people what they need to do after your argument. For the example,
to action is an explicit appeal to your audience members.
Shut up, Siri. All right. So example from the video. Again, this is me speaking. So I'm going to say the example was me saying the QR code. Do you guys remember that? The preschool thing? Okay, yeah. We'll do the preschool again. Sign up on the QR code to sign your child up today. QR code image. This way you can remember the QR code. I don't really want to do a QR code because then you guys will be able to click it. Maybe I could I'm just going to do this because this is kind of funny, actually. Fast foods use QR codes too. Everybody's using them now. They're pretty easy, but anyway, that will get your memory jogged, I suppose. So that's call to action. I hope this helps. I know I went really fast. I often do. I talk fast, but I hope by now you guys have learned to pause my videos when you need to catch up. Also, you can start again from the beginning, and make your own pauses again. And I am now rambling. So I hope I've done a good job of helping you understand these things. I hope I've given you some good examples that kind of take it a little further for you. And if you need help at this point, please come see me or check out some videos on YouTube. Sometimes there's some really great videos of people saying the same things as me, but in different ways, right? Because we don't all learn the same way. And I totally get that. You might not learn the way I teach, but there's so many other people out there, including the people at WAMS. So maybe if Miss Simons or Mr. Presley, Mr. Cheney, Miss McDonald, feel free to ask me if you can set up a session with them or go ask them a question. Because again, if you learn a different way, I'd be happy to try to hook you up with somebody during our class period. Okay, again, I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you soon.